Good evening. Welcome to the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting for Tuesday, October 15th. I'm going to begin with the Pembroke Land Acknowledgement Statement. As we gather today, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of Council and the community that the City of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, could I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Plummer. All in favor? Approved. The minutes of the Parks and Recreation meeting September 17th were circulated. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'd like a motion to accept. Moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Plummer. All in favor? Accepted. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, we have a presentation, and we have Jordan DeRoche, Pembroke Pickleball Introduction, and I guess we have two guest speakers, Sandra Keon and Donna Stokel, members of the Pembroke Pickleball Club. Thank you. Welcome. Okay.
All right, thank you. So I'll just quickly introduce Sandra and Donna. So they are members, of course, of the Pickleball Club, and they are here to present just some information on what they do and how active pickleball is in our community. So welcome, Sandra and Donna.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you for the opportunity to present. Mr. Mayor, Madam Chair, and councillors, we're really happy to be able to give you a little bit of information about our pickleball club. The objectives of the presentation will be to tell you about the club, to give you some information about pickleball in general for those that may or may not know, and to identify a few short-term asks that we'd like to bring forward for you. I would like to go through the presentation very quickly and would entertain questions after. Next slide, please. So a little bit about our club. Our mission statement is to promote the sport of pickleball in Pembroke and area as a fun, healthy, recreational, and competitive activity played year-round through providing affordable play for all skill levels. And our club at this point focuses our attention on the 18-plus adult population. Our vision for our members is that they be physically active, help create a healthy community as well by using pickleball as a recreation, as a sport, and as a wholesome way to meet and interact with people. And we believe this is very congruent with the determinants of health consistent with Renfrew County's issues. So next slide, please. So a little bit about pickleball. Pickleball began in the US in 1965, and there are many folklores about it. I'm sure many of you that are familiar at all have heard some of them. It combines the elements of tennis, badminton, and table tennis. The games can be played in singles, doubles, indoors, outdoors, and it is with a perforated plastic ball. It's played on a court the size of a badminton court, 6.1 meters wide by 13.4 meters long, and we can use either portable or permanent nets. Next slide. So a little bit about pickleball in Canada. It's been growing in popularity. A survey conducted by our national organization, Pickleball Canada, in 2022 revealed that 1 million Canadians are now playing pickleball, which was triple the number when they first did a survey in 2020. There is information now to suggest that that actually there's 1.4 million players playing in Canada. The popularity still remains with the older adult, playing a lot during the week. But the age group that's showing the fastest growth right now is the age group between 16 and 24. And we've shown a 26% growth since 2020. In this survey, anecdotally as well, we have reports across Canada that there's needs for better facilities. And with better facilities comes more instruction and more organized play. Next slide, please. So a little bit about pickleball in Pembroke. In 2015, the Pembroke Pickleball Club started informally, and we were supported at that time by the City of Pembroke, and we used the Kinsman courts. In 2019, we started to play indoors at the Champlain Discovery School. And at that point, we set up a bank account and we adopted some very basic bylaws so that we could become and form a club. Post-COVID, we started playing indoors at the Pembroke Pentecostal Church, where we have 2 shorter than regulation courts. 2 reasons we started at that time was access back into the schools after COVID was quite limited. So we had to find alternatives. As well, a lot of our population of members like to play during the daytime, and that's not when schools are available. So the Pembroke Pentecostal Church has been a good place for us for the short term. And as far as growth is concerned, in 2015, we had about 40 members that came and went. We are now a formal club, and we have well over 100 members. We just did a membership blitz, and it's 109 to be exact at this point. Next slide, please. A little bit about utilization. We took a snapshot of some of our play during the winter for a week. And you'll see that we had 28 sessions planned, 153 players just in Pembroke proper. Outdoors, we took a snapshot in June, July, and at that point we had 17 sessions and 122 players. I will underscore that now, as we ramp up and as we see the interest in pickleball growing, we have an average of 100 players playing most days during the week between all of the places that people have been able to find to play. Barriers that remain are actually play spaces that are suitable and accessible for us. Next slide. So just some immediate issues around the Kinsman. Kinsman's pressing issues, we do have poor drainage, we do have huge puddles when it rains, the court's cracking and widening, it can and will become a safety risk at some point. I'm reminded that the courts are about 20 years old and they haven't been resurfaced. So we are bringing forward a request, at least to be considered, that a resurfacing of the existing footprint would be very helpful to continue use in that spot. Next slide, please. A couple of other requests. Given the fact that we know that Parks and Recreation in the City of Pembroke are looking at opportunities around seniors and seniors' health and activation, we feel we have some expertise to share in that domain particular to pickleball, which is very much an up-and-coming sport, particularly for retired adults, but also for the younger age population. So it's a good thing to be considering in any future plans. We would also like to be considered as a club with a role in some of the master planning that is occurring around recreation at this point. and of course in any facilities planning into the future, both indoors and outdoors. We think we have expertise that could be helpful. Next slide, please. In summary, we are in the immediate future asking if there's any opportunity to look at resurfacing at the Kinsman now that Kinsman Pool is a little bit firmed up, and we know that resurfacing would be contingent on some sort of a geotechnical assessment that would suggest that it's viable and still usable. We have an estimated cost of roughly $35,000, but it's just an estimate based on a 10,000 square foot repaving. So next slide, please. We have a brand new website that we would invite you at some point to scroll through. It's quite interesting. It provides you with lots of information about the club, some of our history, some of our bylaws and policies and procedures, and there's some fun facts and pictures of our members having fun. So I thank you for your time, and I would certainly, Donna and I would certainly entertain questions.
Okay, we have, thank you for the presentation. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you for coming tonight. As I mentioned, walking up here, that court's very dear to my heart because I had the privilege of chairing that project with Kinsman Club back 20 years ago, the year that I got married, so that's how I know it's 20 years old. So it does need work, and but it's good that back then Parks and Rec recommended a multi-sports court, basketball, ball, hockey. So now then pickleball came along, so that's a good thing. And we're exploring the idea of a P3, and we have a steering committee, and I'm sure you'll be talking to Jordan about that, some input into possibility of, if that goes forward, using that facility. But are you able to play on the PMC surface or PEMICE 2 surface, or is it not conducive to the ball?
Actually, using some of the arena surfaces is very viable. We've talked to Jordan a little bit about using PMC. During COVID, we actually played at the PMC for a while.
Right.
So it's, it is a viable alternative. So certainly something that we would be open to looking at.
And PEMICE 2?
Yeah.
Okay. And have you looked at any grants yet, or is that just premature?
We would be interested in collaborating on grant writing. We're an organization that is just starting as far as our bylaws. We're not a not-for-profit yet. So making applications with somebody collaboratively would work much better for us, but we would be very open to looking at any opportunities.
And you use, last winter, did you use Jean Lajoie School? Is that the one?
Jean Lajoie School and Zion Lutheran Church are both being used. It's through Laurentian Valley.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of Laurentian Valley, interestingly, picklers are picklers. They look for places to play. So a lot of the Laurentian Valley players also play and have now joined our club.
Right. And what about the local high schools, like Fellows and...
They're very blocked as far as opportunities. There's a lot of different people competing. So badminton, the students and their student activities themselves. There's some time, but it's quite limited. We're playing 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah, it's very, the club's grown, so congratulations. And
Thank you.
I want to try that out. I go by there, and I told Mr. Murphy and Mr. Lehman I would try that out this summer.
You would be more than welcome.
Yeah.
Any of you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Purcell.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I know that I know in Renfrew that there's membership rates that are attributed to users that are playing pickleball in the outdoor courts. I think it's $70 for an adult per year for the outdoor courts, and $450 for daily drop-in, $15 for junior, $35 for intermediate. Would that be something that the group would be interested in terms of, you know, sitting down with Mr. DeRoche and looking at a user agreement in terms of because the Kinsman court is also used for ball hockey and basketball, so there's different activities. So if we just give it to one group for them to utilize it for pickleball, then those other users won't have that opportunity to use that court. So maybe, you know, what I would suggest is maybe just sit down with Mr. DeRoche and look at kind of sound like a user agreement, and then see what we can do to offset some of the costs in terms of the resurfacing through membership fees as well. And maybe that could get you one step further in regards to having appropriate surfaces to pay for. I know that Renfrew had just did this, and I think it's working out well for Renfrew. And like everything, we're constantly being pressured in terms of making sure that we're getting a little bit of funding for you know, some of the investments that we're putting into our facilities. And so I think that might be a good opportunity. Do you have anything to add, Jordan, in regards to that?
No, I think you definitely mentioned it all.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your presentation. So 2 questions. To follow up what you were talking about earlier, you're not yet incorporated. Is there a plan to incorporate? That's my first question. And secondly, have you spoke to the 50-plus active living centers so as to see about their facility, and perhaps there's members or future members that are there? So that's my 2 questions.
Do you want to answer that?
So in regards to that, the 50-plus centers, Fit and Feisty, which is the Laurentian Valley, a lot of their players play with us. We go and play out there, so it comes together. The Pembroke Senior Center, there was a full presentation done there right before COVID by one of the pickleball instructors, which was kind of fun because they actually took a ball into the center and let people try it, and there were some members that came from that. So they're certainly aware of it. So we do have members that come from the centers. And your other question, what was it?
That you were commenting that you're not yet incorporated, so I'm just wondering, by that phrase, does that mean that you are in the process of creating a formal entity that can be dealt with,
Right, okay.
as opposed to a
So,
non-entity?
yeah, in regards to that, yes, it's step 2. So the first thing was to have our bylaws and all of those things all tidied up, have proper policy in place, proper board in place, AGM, you know, where members were all aware of what was going on. And now that that's in place, that would be our next step, because really we won't likely be successful in any grant writing until we are an NPO.
Councillor Jackno?
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. I'm glad to see that 18-plus are playing. Anything to get a young person off a cell phone today, I think, is a wonderful initiative, so thank you for doing that. Do you have a membership cost associated with this, and how much is it, and where does the funding go?
We have a membership cost. We have established memberships this year. It's about $200 a year, which is very reasonable. It's less than $2 a week. But again, we have a population where we want to keep it affordable. We have this year developed a few different levels of memberships. So we do have what we call a partial membership for snowbirds, which is prorated, allows for a 3-month blockout period. And we have a part-time membership, which is, again, prorated to allow people to play twice a week. When we looked at the profile of our club, we looked at why people were just dropping in. And in order to deal with not having drop-ins and unpredictable income, we decided to meet the needs of the client base that we had at the time. So we now have roughly 70% that are actually full members and would pay the $200, and then the rest are partial or part-time. We have 6 drop-ins now because that's not where we want to be as far as a club.
Where does the funding go? For
The
equipment?
funding goes just to pay for the rental of the space. We are not for profit, as far as we're trying to live by a lot of the guidelines that we would be if we were a legitimate and formalized legal entity. So we've, over the last year, actually over the last 4 months, we're a brand new board, and we've been working very hard to meet all of the criteria to make us very much accountable to the membership and to the public.
Thank you.
Any further questions, comments? No? From the chair, I want to thank you for your presentation. I'm definitely an advocate for staying active. And I've seen both of you lots in the community, especially you, Sandra. So thank you for your presentation, and I urge you to keep communicating with Jordan at the Recreation Department, and let us know when you're incorporated, and we'll keep the conversations going. Thank you very much. Okay, so new business. And I'll just give it a minute. Thank you for coming. Good night. So we have Victoria Charbonneau, and this is the Integrity Commissioner Contract Extension.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm here tonight to review a report for an Integrity Commissioner contract extension. So a little bit of background for Council. In accordance with Bill 68, municipalities are required to appoint an Integrity Commissioner. And in doing so, the Integrity Commissioner follows a few guidelines and is responsible to report back to Council on the following. I'll highlight a few. They are listed in their completeness in the report. Number 1 is the application of the Code of Conduct for members of Council and the Code of Conduct for members of local boards as well. The application of any procedures, rules, and policies of the municipality and local boards governing the ethical behavior of members of Council and local boards, and also to provide advice on certain sections of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Acts for, again, members of Council and local boards. In November of 2018, there was a bylaw passed to appoint the firm of Cunningham, Swan, Carty, Little, and Bonham, LLP, to provide services for an Integrity Commissioner for the City of Pembroke. And that was for a 3-year term. And then again, in 2022, there was a bylaw passed to extend the term for an additional 3 years. We are coming up to the end of that extension, that being the January 1st, 2025 expiry date of the current term. So under Section 5 of this amended agreement, their city has an option to extend for an additional 3 years. And then this would provide for consistency for the remaining term of council plus an additional year for the new term of council. And that's an important caveat because as part of the agreement, the firm also provides design and amendment of the current council staff relations policy, the code of conduct, and also training for the new council. And an additional caveat to that is that any other municipalities in the County of Renfrew who also are clients of the firm can cost share with City of Pembroke and other partnering municipalities to share the costs of the services for the training and policy development. Staff is recommending that the term be extended for the reasons stated therein. Alternatives considered that if council does not elect to renew the agreement, staff will need to be directed to engage in a request for proposal of service process with a short time frame and report back hopefully in December with some options for council to choose from based on the RFP terms. Currently, the financial implications for the firm that we have currently contracted services for, there is no retainer to have their services, and the cost is $295 an hour plus applicable taxes. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions council or committee may have.
Councillor Purcell?
Thank you, Chair. I guess my concern is that, you know, I think that we should really go out for competitive bid and look at, instead of the 3-year extension in terms of the contract. And I think there's a reason for it. If you look at our code of conduct under section 16, the integrity commissioner is supposed to provide an annual report, and it says shall. I haven't seen an annual report in the 2 years that I've been working here. And I think that's a condition in terms of his services. I could read it to you exactly what the bylaw states. Under section 16.6 of our code of conduct, I guess it's probably maybe not in good standings with our code of conduct procedure bylaw. The integrity commissioner shall prepare and submit the council an annual report that shall include at a minimum a breakdown of costs incurred of the following categories of work performed: advice, investigations, dispute resolution, and training, a summary of the nature of requests made and the resolutions to the matters without providing any confidential information in the report, and any recommendations for improvements to this code or processes or any procedure, rule, or policy of the municipality governing the ethical behavior of a member. I've been on council for 2 years. I have not seen an annual report come from the integrity commissioner. In fact, I think the integrity commissioner wrote this code of conduct policy. So if the integrity commissioner is enforcing the code of conduct policy and doesn't adhere to his own sections in terms of the policy, I find it difficult for me to support an extension. So what I do is that we direct, that the committee recommend that to council that we direct staff to go out for a competitive bid for integrity commissioner services, and that council also directs staff to draft a revised code of conduct policy that focuses on those matters provided under the Municipal Act, egregious behaviors on parts of the council and committee while respecting the taxpayer and preventing the use of the code of conduct to be used as a political weapon. Thank you.
Does staff want to reply to that? Did we receive a report from the integrity commissioner as outlined?
I would have to look into that, seeing as I'm fairly new to the corporation. I don't have a reference point of that. I can look into that and report back to council.
That would be great, I think.
That's all I have on that for now, but
Okay.
I certainly appreciate the feedback and can go through some files. to get
Because that
info.
being said, perhaps it was received but not circulated. I'm just trying to, make sure that we weren't missed if we were supposed to be. So thank you.
It does say submit to council on an annual basis.
Okay, thank you.
And just to add on to that, and then once we have an RFP and a new integrity commissioner chosen, if that's the route council wants to go, certainly council has purview over the code of conduct and has to accept it. So the terms therein would be at council's discretion.
Deputy Mayor?
I'll second the motion.
Further discussion, I believe the mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So certainly, in terms of the position, other than doing education and so forth, I don't think it's an envious position to have to be an integrity commissioner. Providing advice to individuals who call the integrity commissioner, reviewing complaints, that sort of thing. I know in terms of myself, without getting into specifics, I have called the integrity commissioner over the number of years when the need arose, and he was always prompt in answering my questions. I have been the subject of some investigations and spoke to different members of that particular office and answered questions and that sort of thing, and was always, everything was cordial and so forth, and answered whatever the questions are. In terms of the economies of scale and so forth, I understand that this integrity commissioner is the integrity commissioner for Laurentian Valley, Petawawa, Whitewater, probably countless other ones. I have contacted those other municipalities, and as I understand it, one particular municipality is recommending, similar to this report, recommending to renew with this particular firm. The other one said that they understand that they need to address it before the year is up, and the other one didn't get back to me as yet. In terms of pricing, one of my concerns about going out is, as I understand it, this firm is willing to hold the price, and I've yet to see anyone's prices ever go down. And so what I'm concerned about is if we go out, is it going to jump from the current amount to a much higher amount? I do understand the concern that's raised by Councillor Purcell, and I noticed that in the documentation it says that if council ever wanted to, within 30 days' notice, they could have canceled the contract. So I would think that if we didn't receive reports, and I don't recall seeing one, I'll confess that I don't recall seeing a report, but certainly anyone could have raised it and said, okay, well, there's a problem here. How come we're not getting our yearly report or what have you? I do know, and so at the last AMO conference, Councillor Purcell, myself, and Mr. Unruh were present, and unfortunately, well, I say unfortunately, but anyways, there was an elected member there talking about issues that they're having in their municipality. The question was posed to Minister Calandra. Mr. Calandra apparently is reviewing, from what was said in the, and I stand to be corrected, a bullpit or whatever it's called, bullpit. Anyways, he had indicated that he, from what I gathered, is looking at a unified provincial code that all municipalities will be subjected to, if I can put it that way. Doesn't mean that you still need an integrity commissioner, it just means that there's going to be one that is across the board as to what it is that we're supposed to comply with. So in terms of a motion saying, well, we're going to revisit or we're going to create a new code of conduct, it sounds like one is going to be subjected to us, or we're going to be subjected to it, rather, without us creating one, which I'm fine with. It is what it is. God knows they already have the Municipal Act and the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, and we're already subject to all those different things as well. But in short, I support what the recommendation is just to extend it for the rest of the term for all of those reasons. If someone had an issue with the Integrity Commissioner, current one, I would have thought that someone would have brought it forward and said, Council, do you want to give 30 days notice and let's switch? But that never happened. So anyways, I have no issue with, I guess is what I'm saying, with the present contract with Cunningham, Swan, Cardy, Little, Bonham. Thank you.
Councillor Jackno?
Just a question, Madam Chair, through you to Councillor Purcell. Your last statement, you said political weapon. Were you referring, what does that mean? I don't understand that.
Sometimes the Integrity Commissioner complaint process could be used as a retaliatory tool. And I think we got to limit that, because ultimately it's our taxpayer that ends up paying the dollars in regards to the costs. And I know that the costs are significant in terms of the time, energy, you know, the amount of back and forth. So I think that's my concern, is that it can be used for the wrong purposes. You can talk to various different municipalities that have the same types of issues, Kingston being one of them. So, you know, there's just an opportunity for us to even look at the code of conduct and realign with the Municipal Act, and not have some of this other information that's in here that kind of muddies the waters. Because then we end up having the integrity, you know, commissioner policing a word or 2 words or 3 words or a statement. And it's an interpretation. Meanwhile, there's no definition in terms of what would that be in terms of respectful or disrespectful. And I'm going back to my own situation. Unlike the mayor, I had a different experience with the Integrity Commissioner, with various calls to him directly with no callbacks for months. This is last year. Also, you know, had the vagueness in terms of the complaint process in regards to what I was received and what the actual complaint, what the finalized complaint was. And if I could show you the original complaint to what the actual complaint that actually got addressed last November, it was significant and it was unfounded. But they only report on the one little piece. They don't report on the whole report. So there's, you know, I question the depth of investigation that's actually taken place in some cases as well. And I know that we're going to be talking about some other things in the near future, but I can bring it up at that time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just in conclusion, I appreciate the clarification. I didn't know what you were meaning. You know, words are very powerful things. But today I had the opportunity to review a judgment by an integrity commissioner that took place in Southern Ontario, Pickering, and it was a counselor on the particular council who was interviewed on a show by an interviewer who was he was homophobic, obviously anti-Semitic, and you know, he was interviewing the counselor, and she seemed to be going along with whatever was being said. And I mean, that put the whole of her council in a very jeopardizal position, made them all look like they had that same attitude, which was not correct. But from that standpoint, I think it's very difficult for an integrity commissioner, it doesn't matter who it is, you know, to take that particular role, and he's got to make the judgments and whatever, what the information has been given. But as you said, you know, it wasn't totally what was presented. So in that case, I find that, you know, that I have a bit of a problem with that. But like any judge, you know, the judge has to make a definition of what's presented based on what's given to him and make a decision. So personally, based on what I've seen from the present integrity commissioner, I look at him as a professional, a gentleman. You know, I think he's doing what he's been told to do by his appointment, and I don't have a problem with him. But if council wishes to move forward with somebody else, be the majority rules. Thank you.
Councillor Keel?
So it's probably not going to shock anybody that I have significant problems with our current integrity commissioner, and I have, believe it or not, since before I was sworn in. So after the election, I don't know if everybody did, but certainly I was sent our, you know, the oath that we take, and then you might recall that there was supposed to be a second oath that you would abide by the code of conduct. And so I said to our then CAO, I said, well, can I have a copy of our code of conduct? And I went through it, and there were a number of issues that I took. Some of it did relate to free speech, which our current integrity commissioner doesn't seem to treat with the same seriousness that I personally see it as. But again, as Councillor Giacono noted, that's, you know, that's an interpretation. That's from person to person, that can be different. But there were two areas. One in our code of conduct, still today, if you look at it, it basically says that the integrity commissioner can recommend one or both a reprimand or a financial fine. So I went to our integrity commissioner. I said, I think if you review the Municipal Act, you will see that it's not one or both, it's one or the other. And he came back to me prior to the swearing in, and he said, yes, that's your interpretation is correct. There's another section in the Code of Conduct that says we can't participate in any, and I don't know if the mayor can help me. I think it was the municipal board at one point, then it was the LPAT, and I forget what it's called now, but zoning appeals and stuff like that. It said no member can participate. And I said to him, well, that's fine, but what if it's your neighbor? What if it's you? What if you bring, I mean, we've had at least one member around this table bring planning matters before us, and according to this code of conduct, there's no exemption. And he says, yeah, there probably should be an exemption for that. Now, the reason I tell that story is if we have an integrity commissioner that, honest to God, can't interpret properly a section of the municipal code that tells you that the punishment can be one or the other, and admits to making another error, because I do believe somebody else said it around here. I think he drafted this code of conduct. So these are two errors that he admitted to in, I'm going to say in or about November of 2022. We still don't have a report from him. I noticed one of the parts of the contract is that he's responsible for advising us on the code and for drafting the code. So, you know, there's just one example. Another example that I have is it was Wednesday, January 24th. So the day prior, I exited the Robbie Dean Centre as a board member. And so the next day, I wrote to our integrity commissioner to ask, you know, is there a point where I no longer have a conflict? And council will know that this question came up because the Robbie Dean Centre was going to be bringing a request dealing with the Music for a Cause. The response to that came Wednesday, July 31st. So while the mayor might might have had quick responses. I had to remind him that I was still looking for this particular response. And of course, this came, the reason I was reminded of it was because the Robbie Dean Center was a benefactor of the street closure for the street party. So I haven't had the same response. But then tonight we're going to hear about another issue, and I know at least 2 other members of council would be familiar with this. So you get a complaint from the Integrity Commissioner, and I can tell Councillor Purcell that the complaints have at least got a little better in terms of information. But one of the things that he says is you can't share this with anybody but your lawyer, pursuant to a confidentiality section of the Municipal Act. And I went back to him and I said, well, this confidentiality section of the Municipal Act says that the people that are instructed by the Integrity Commissioner shall treat all things confidential. And my reading of that was that these are people in his office. And without getting council bored, there's another provision that says the Integrity Commissioner can deputize. So if Mr. Fleming was ever away, he can deputize another person in his office. So I said, I don't know, in my response to Mr. Fleming, I said, I don't see how you can say that this section tells me that I have to treat things confidential. This is about you and your office. And his very flippant response to me is, you're right, you're not covered by this section, but I'm telling you to treat everything as confidential. Well, with all due respect, do you have the power to tell me to treat everything confidential, or is it this section of the Act that was in your original letter? And I wanted, just to show you the type of Integrity Commissioner that we're dealing with, I wanted to share with everyone tonight the original complaint and my response, because later tonight we're going to be discussing that. And his response to me was, you shouldn't talk about the substance of the complaint. So tonight we're going to be discussing something that I did. You're going to be putting me on judgment, and I'm being told by the Integrity Commissioner that I should not discuss the substance of the complaint with you. Now, somebody around this table, anybody, tell me how that makes sense. Tell me how that is the expectation of any one of you that voted for this, to appoint him as the Integrity Commissioner in our current code of conduct. So I understand what Councillor Purcell is saying in terms of the weaponization. I think you would find, if you consulted with some council members, even locally, you would find that there are cases where there are certain individuals who, for one reason or another, come to dislike the municipality, and they fire off freedom of information requests, they fire off code of conduct complaints. And in the example that I'm aware of, not one code of conduct complaint has been upheld, and hundreds of hours have been spent on FOI requests. So I think, Councillor Giacono, that's what we were getting at in terms of it being weaponized. And then just recently, and I'm sure I'm running out of time, Madam Chair, this will be my last point. Just recently, there was an article in the Sioux Today talking about the expense of these investigations. The article notes a frivolous complaint that was expected to cost $6,500. Another quote, Mr. Dufour, who is Mr. Dufour? Well, I can share the article with Ward 3 Councillor and Ward 2 Luke Dufour. The quote is, there are cities smaller than us that have spent upwards of $300,000 and $400,000 a year on integrity commissioners in order to adjudicate what, to my mind, are normal political disputes and disagreements. So I think where Councillor Purcell was going, and this is something that I've spoken to some members with previously, I don't have a problem with having a code of conduct, and certainly I do wonder if the province does one, if it'll be a bit more robust in its procedure. I mean, I may come to bite those words at some point, but that it may have a more open and transparent procedure. I mean, we had that case, and I think, Councillor Lafreniere, your prior motion that we supported involved sexual harassment of somebody in Ottawa. Well, there's a far cry from sexual harassment of a councillor to staff members than someone now regrettably using a colorful word. So do we really want multi-$1,000 investigations because something popped out of a councillor's mouth? So I think that's why I would like to see a new integrity commissioner, because I don't have faith in the current one, and it doesn't. I hope council will believe me when I say it is not just because of what we're going to see later tonight. It has been ongoing from the beginning, and I think most of council will probably remember my comments during Troy's last year. So it's not just because I'm the one on the hook tonight. This has been quite a long-standing disagreement, and Madam Chair, I am very sorry because I'm sure I went over 5 minutes. I will be supporting Councillor Purcell's motion.
Thank you. Any other comments? So I'll just briefly from the chair, if I may. Integrity Commissioner. We look to them for advice on how to, they make a ruling and then it's up to us, basically, to decide. Obviously, we have not agreed with recommendations thus far, which means, obviously, there's not an alignment between what they are saying and what this council was supporting. So, really, I don't like the idea, and this is my opinion, that someone else makes the judgment, but it's up to council, us to decide, because it is our peers that we are judging. And I agree that it can cause separation. Whether we agree or not, it should not be left to us. And I really hope that the province does step in and start to streamline the code, and they judge. It shouldn't be up to me to judge my peers, because as was said earlier tonight, sometimes we do get in heated discussions. And I mean, in the past, we settled it. I had discussions with other councillors over the years where we'd had a disagreement. I called them up the next day, can I have a coffee with you? And we talk about this and we work it out. So unless it gets to extreme disrespect of staff or another member, I think it should be the province's responsibility. They basically put that on our shoulders, and that's just going to be my opinion tonight. The fact that we have not followed the recommendations tells me that it's a lot to put on our shoulders to judge our peers. Thank you. No other comments? Now, there is a motion. Could you just repeat?
So I would move that committee recommend to council to direct staff to go out for competitive bid for integrity commissioner services, and that council also direct staff to draft a revised code of conduct that focuses on those matters provided under the Municipal Act, egregious behaviors on parts of the council and committee while respecting the taxpayer and preventing the use of the code of conduct to be used as a political weapon.
I'd ask for recorded vote.
Councillor Jack, no. Okay, and it was seconded, I believe, by the Deputy Mayor. Mr. Unruh?
Yeah, I was just wondering if I could get clarification on the timelines, I guess, within the motion. So the first part of the motion in regards to going out to tender and direct staff, we can do that. The current contract ends at the end of December. The redrafting of the code of conduct, that would be something that would be done in conjunction with the new commissioner. So
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. Okay, we're ready? Okay. Deputy Mayor Brian Abdallah.
Yay.
Councillor Ed Jacquino.
No.
Councillor Ian Keel.
Yay.
Councillor Pat Lafreniere.
Nay.
Nay. Okay. Councillor Andrew Plummer.
Yay.
Councillor Troy Purcell.
Yay.
And Mayor Ron Gervais.
Nay.
Okay, the 4 were yay and 3 for nay, so the motion passes.
Okay. Seeing nothing else on the agenda, motion to adjourn. Councillor Purcell, Deputy Mayor, all in favor. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this council meeting to order for October 15th. I would ask that everyone please take an opportunity to stand for an opening prayer or reflection. Before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in relation to the matters in the open session of council this evening? Seeing none. Moving to minutes. The first is an approval of minutes of the regular meeting of council October 1st, 2024. I have a motion by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? That is carried. We have then adoption of minutes from committees. First is Parks and Recreation Committee, September 17th, 2024. Motion by Councillor Plummer, second by Councillor Lafreniere. Those in favor? That is carried. Last but not least is receiving minutes from local boards, and we have one this evening, Pembroke Heritage Murals, October 2nd, 2024. I have Councillor Giacono moving that, seconded by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? And that's carried. Under committee reports, we have an Operations Committee report coming from Councillor Plummer, adopt amendment to traffic bylaw.
Thanks, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second by the Deputy Mayor. The Operations Committee of Council begs the report to recommend the following to its meeting held this evening as follows. To amend bylaw 2020-64, it's traffic bylaw. No, move by. Yeah, that's it. Sorry. Move by myself, second by the Deputy Mayor. So it's a very short one. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank
Sorry,
you.
there's nothing else to it. I was waiting for the other piece.
I didn't know what was going on there.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay, it's not getting much later.
No.
So the Operations Committee of Council begging to report and recommend, being moved by Councillor Plummer and seconded by the Deputy Mayor, to amend bylaw 2020-64 to regulate traffic bylaw. Do you wish to speak to it?
This was, we had a traffic discussion with the Director of Operations at the previous meeting. We discussed a few alterations to the traffic bylaw and moving the, it was the ATVs and a few other streets allowing for different uses throughout the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor of that? That is carried. Proclamations. By the virtue of the power vested in me, I do hereby declare October 24th, 2024 as the 24th Annual Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Education Appreciation Day in the City of Pembroke. Whereas years of research confirm that benefits of high-quality early learning and child care for young children's intellectual, emotional, social, and physical development and later life outcomes, and whereas child care promotes the well-being of children and responds to the needs of families and the broader community by supporting quality of life so that citizens can fully participate in and contribute to the economic and social life of their community, and whereas trained and knowledgeable registered early childhood educators and child care staff are the key to quality in early learning and child care programs in licensed child care early Ontario programs, child life programs, and full-day kindergarten, and whereas registered early childhood educators and child care workers will be vital to the success of Canada-wide early learning and child care system. As indicated, October 24th is Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Education Appreciation Day. As indicated, high-quality child care is so important to our youth and so important to ensure that we get to our children early on in life, and that's why we have the benefit of various programs, including the programs that are library. Equally important is to have highly trained and knowledgeable early childhood educators to set the youth on the right trajectory. So therefore, I, Ron Jerva, Mayor of the City of Pembroke, do hereby proclaim October 24th, 2024 as the 24th Annual Child Care of Worker and Early Childhood Education Appreciation Day in the City of Pembroke in recognition of their education, dedication, and commitment of childcare workers to their children, their families, and the quality of life of the community. Moving on to bylaws, 2024-58, zoning bylaw amendment, cannabis production facilities. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Plummer that bylaw 2024-58, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Waiting your signature, Your Worship.
Thank you.
So moved by Councillor Giacono and seconded by Councillor Plummer that bylaw 2024-58, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Councillor Giacono, did you wish to speak to this motion?
I do, Your Worship. Thank you very much. This amendment deals with the cannabis production facilities that may take place within our community and regulates the amount of space between properties, etc. It's a housekeeping item and just brings us up to date on how we'll proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, we received a report on this earlier, not tonight, but earlier. So I'll call the question. Those in favor, and that is carried. Next is 2024-59 zoning bylaw amendment regarding Cedar Lane properties. Councillor Keel.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purcell, the bylaw 2024-59, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Purcell, that bylaw 2024-59, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Councillor Keel, did you wish to speak to this bylaw?
Your Worship, this matter came up at a prior council meeting, essentially when the current bylaw was passed in its last sweeping form. There was some missed opportunities. We failed to include certain residential type 1 water, flood fringe water, and floodplain zones on the map. So this is really just a housekeeping matter to put those indicators where they should have been in the first place.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. The next is bylaw 2024-60, regulation of traffic, bylaw 2020-64 amendment. Councillor Plummer.
Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor, that bylaw 2024-60, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-64 as amended, being a bylaw to regulate traffic, City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation.
Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that bylaw 2024-60, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-64, as amended, being a bylaw to regulate traffic in the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Councillor Plummer, did you wish to speak?
This is just housekeeping bylaw. One item as a few to be removed and replaced is the removal of the section of the bylaw discussing crossing guards, as the school crossings are necessary to have crossing guards. We don't have crossing guards in the city anymore, so that section is being removed. A couple of their housekeeping items just to regulate traffic.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. So there are no motions this evening, and in keeping with the advice I received from the Integrity Commissioner, I'm asking the Deputy Mayor to take the chair as one of these pieces of correspondence pertains to me.
Item 9, correspondence. Code of Conduct complaint letter dated October 10th, 2024. Tony Fleming, LSO Specialist in Municipal Law. Cunningham, Swan, Carty, Little, and Bonham, LLP. Correspondence was distributed from the clerk to council regarding the Code of Conduct complaint against Mayor Ron Gervais. In summary, the complaint alleges that the member was in a conflict of interest pursuant to Section 9 of the Code of Conduct by participating in that vote. The complaint is beyond the limitation period under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, and as such is only being considered under Section 9.3 of the Code of Conduct as a non-pecuniary conflict of interest. The nature of the alleged conflict is that the member was the lawyer for the grind in 2017. The complaint stated that if the member is still representing the grind, its continued participation in council matters involving the grind would create a conflict. Investigation findings from the report. The member does not have a conflict of interest with the grind. The evidence before the Integrity Commissioner is that the member is not the lawyer for the grind and that he has not acted for the grind on the matter of the lease, which formed part of the complaint. The allegation that the lease for the grind was drafted by the law firm that employs the member is also unfounded. Therefore, there is no basis to find that the member acted in breach of the Code of Conduct as the complaint is dismissed. As there was no breach identified by the Integrity Commissioner, council is only required to determine how to post on the website. There's two options. Option 1, include the report as part of the October 15th, 2024 agenda package. Option 2, include the report under a standalone page, the city government page on the city's website. So we need a motion for that, and I have a sample motion drafted. Councillor Purcell.
So I move that we accept the report from the Integrity Commissioner and post it on the public website under the Integrity Commissioner investigation
tab.
Do
we have a seconder? Councillor Giacono. Discussion? Those in favor? Carried. Item 9B. Code of Conduct complaint letter dated October 8th, 2024. Tony Fleming, LSO Specialist in Municipal Law, Cunningham, Swan, Carty, Little, and Bottom, LLP. Correspondence was distributed from the clerk to council regarding the Code of Conduct complaint against Councillor Keel. In summary, the complaint alleged that the member attended a town hall-style meeting on October 25th, 2024. The meeting was attended by members of the public who were concerned with certain behavior in the downtown. A quote from Councillor Keel was reported by a local media outlet that contained a word that the complainant found unsuitable. Investigation findings from the report. The Integrity Commissioner finds that the statement made by the member constituted a breach of the Code of Conduct. The Integrity Commissioner recommends that council issue a public reprimand to ensure that the public know that it does not condone this conduct. As there is a breach identified by the Integrity Commissioner, council is required to decide on two matters: how to post the report, that's motion 1, and number 2, to uphold the Integrity Commissioner's recommendation or as information. So we have to decide how we're going to post it on the website, and the second motion would be if there's going to be a reprimand. So, Councillor Purcell.
Similar to the previous report, we'll post it on the investigation tab on our website.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Plummer. Any discussion? Councillor Jacquino.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Difficult thing to talk about when you've got a fellow that, you know, is right across the table from you. I can look him in the eye, and he can look me back in the eye, knowing wholeheartedly that he sits there with the same reason that I sit here, is to do good for his community. I guess the question is should councillors be held accountable?
So the motion is to, we're just deciding how to post it on the website for this part.
Can I not speak to the motion?
Well, there would have to be a motion. Are you talking about are you thinking about the reprimand part of it?
Yeah, there's a motion on the floor.
No, but first we have to decide how we're going to post it on the website or with the part of the agenda.
Go ahead, and then I'll speak to it.
Then somebody has to make a motion for reprimand if they decide to do so.
Go ahead.
So, do you want to speak about how we're going to post it?
No.
Okay. Any further discussion? Those in favor? Carried. Okay. Next item, motion 1. Okay, motion 2. Integrity Commissioner recommendation, council statement, public reprimand. Option 1, no reprimand chosen. No motion required. Option 2, public reprimand chosen. So somebody would have to bring a motion forward before there's any discussion. Councillor Plummer?
I would move that there's no reprimand motion.
So there's no motion required for that. Councillor Deputy Mayor Survey. Clerk, did you hand out the sample motion for the reprimand?
Yeah, and that's just a sample. If that's the direction council chooses to go, it's a basic outline. Again, if council is just choosing to receive the report under correspondence, no motion is required.
Councillor Mayor Survey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yes, I do have what was provided. I take it to all of us. And although it's not down there, and I did read the report, and like most of us, or all of us, read it over and over and over again, to the point where it sounds like another councillor was looking at cases, I was looking at cases, I think maybe a few of us were looking at cases. My thought was, and then I'll make a motion and we'll see where this is going, is a third option, which I interpret as being less, anyways, is option 3, a motion that there be an apology to the council, but to whoever it is that this phrase was apparently being made to.
The motion by Mayor Gervais. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Jacquino. Discussion. Mayor Gervais, then Councillor Jacquino.
So if I can, as I was just alluding to earlier, so this doesn't come to council very frequently, but entirely too frequently for my liking. As I've told some councillors recently, so I've been on council since 2010, the landscape is very different. In 2010, you'd get the odd comment made in terms of being a member of council, but it was not as what I'll describe as vicious as it is now, and I concede to Councillor Purcell in terms of I'm not worried about the people around this table. It's individuals in the community that this whole notion of having a code of conduct has allowed individuals to make complaints to the Integrity Commissioner utilizing the process that's in place. And there are times when I look at it and really question who is behind it, and we all know that unless it's restricted situations, at least what I was advised, is that we're not entitled to know who the individual is behind it, and we just moments ago dealt with a complaint in respect to myself. So I know that to be true, and unfortunately, and I'm going to publicly state that unfortunately it's moved beyond sometimes attacking council members, but it's also attacking staff. So I'm just going to put that out there because it's something else in terms of how the landscape has changed. But as I alluded to earlier, what I did was, and it's how lawyers think, as we look to see, are there any other cases out there? What am I supposed to be thinking about? That, you know, because you can read the code of conduct as many times as you want. Sometimes that's not as helpful. I actually came across a decision regarding what was then Councillor Doug Ford and is now Premier Doug Ford, who was subject of a complaint in May 2012. The City of Toronto had a code of conduct, and so I'm just looking at this decision, and similar to what we have this evening, and I don't need my iPad because I've read it many times already. Councillor Ford was found to have said, referring to the Ministry of Health as this guy, and asked on 2 separate occasions, why does he still have a job? When interviewed, similar to what unfortunately some of us have been subjected to, he indicated he was not intended to being malicious or falsely trying to injure this particular individual. The Integrity Commissioner in that particular instance said public name calling and or personal attacks, in this particular case on a staff member, has a chilling effect on the public service to make good faith recommendations in accordance with individual mandates. The Integrity Commissioner says, in absence of an apology, Council must uphold the important principles in this code of conduct. Council to impose sanctions, including reprimand, suspensions of remuneration for up to 90 days. So that was something in their code of conduct, I would imagine. Code of conduct further provides that additional penalties, including a request for an apology. I recommend that Council impose a reprimand to express the view of Council that the words being spoken by Councillor Ford, then Councillor Ford, were in breach of the code of conduct. This will allow Council to emphasize the importance of respect for staff. It will recognize the failure to offer an apology in circumstances where it is warranted will lead to consideration of sanctions. Finally, a reprimand will underline Council's expectations for all of its members that public service are entitled to expect that members of Council will meet the highest standards of conduct. I know that sometimes we say things that in retrospect we wish we had not. I'm human, and I know that when I'm out and about, as friends of mine always say, that I'm never Ron Jerva anymore. And I recognize that. And so in my mind, an apology to recognize that sometimes we say things that we ought not would simply put it to bed, and then it would be over. Recognizing that it could be myself, like on the this past weekend at the PMC, I could have said something inappropriate. Things happen. Sometimes we use words that because it's part of the vernacular now. Sometimes you're not mindful of the time and the place where you're at, and you say things that you would probably say with a buddy while having a refreshment. So I'm cognizant of that, and that someday someone is potentially going to report me for saying something that I would have said, and I recognize that, and it's very unfortunate, and it makes me wonder sometimes who in the future might want to run for this particular position when you're trying the best that you can to represent the residents, and yet you get attacked. And so anyways, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Councillor Jagano.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. As I was saying, I hate to sound like a parrot, but when I look across the table, I see another councillor there that has the same drive, initiative, and fire in his belly to serve the community as I do, and as each and every councillor around here does. I don't think there's one that sits here with any alternate motives other than to serve the community. My question is this, you know, should councillors be held accountable in the same way as municipal employees? Integrity and accountability underline our elected positions. That's us. It underlines who we are, what we say, who we talk to. As His Worship just said, you know, when you go out in the public now, you're not Ron Gervais, the lawyer, Ron Gervais, my neighbor. You're not Ed Giacono, the West End guy. You are a councillor, or you are the mayor of the city of Pembroke. And you have to wear that every day. When you go to church, when you go to the funeral home, you're going to get it. My road isn't fixed after church. What are you going to do about this? You are not, if you were not that councillor, you wouldn't get that question. So you live with it every day. There was an amendment to the Municipal Act in 2001 that allowed us to establish a code of conduct, which this community did. Does it suit? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but the code of conduct is there as a guide for us to follow and to adhere to. Otherwise, why have it? It's just a useless piece of paper. So you can review it, you can change integrity commissioner. If something doesn't suit you down the road, you can change it again. That's our role as a council. But if the shoe fits, you know, sometimes we have to wear it. I have to refer us all back to 6.0 of the Conduct and the Code of Ethics. 6.1, every member has a duty and the responsibility to treat members of the public, staff, and each other in a respectful manner. That means each of us, not individuals, all of us. 6.2, a member shall not use indecent, abusive, or insulting words or expressions towards any member of staff, or any member of the public. A member shall not speak in a manner that is discriminatory to any individual based on that person's race, ancestry, place of origin, creed, gender, sexual orientation, age, color, marital status, or disability. So I think that's got pretty well every angle covered. Sometimes we speak in passionate heat of the moment. I'm not excluded from that. I've done it in the past. But if I felt, you know, I was wrong, then I felt I had to apologize. So the issue is here we are doing a judgment on a councillor who has to sit here in solitude and in quiet, not able to defend himself in essence, whereas in a court of law he would have a say. The court of public opinion says that the integrity commissioner has had the say, which he has, and his recommendation has come down. And as Councillor Laferniere said, thanks a lot. You know, you make the decision, and you throw the you know, the coal on us. Now we got to, you know, we got to get the fire going and still deal with the individual that we deal with who sits in other committees to help the good of the community. So how do we handle that? I think what we have to do is look at the situation. The individual has to make his decision, and then this council will make theirs. But I feel that, you know, each of us are out there in the community. You don't represent you represent all of us. So when somebody speaks out there, he's not only speaking, or she, they're not only speaking for themselves, they're speaking for me. Thank you.
You had your, so Councillor.
I didn't have my hand up, but I will.
Oh, so Councillor Frenier, then Councillor Purcell. Purcell, and then Councillor Frenier.
Thank you, Chair. You know, I think one of the things, and we talked a little bit earlier, is in regards to the code of conduct. You know, and I think we're missing a very important part of the code of conduct, and that's the step one, which would be the individuals are encouraged to pursue the informal complaint procedure as the first means of remediating any behavior or activity that violates the code of conduct. It's in our code of conduct policy. I think it's similar to what I talked about last year in November, is that, you know, there's a means of mitigating some of these concerns without going through a formal process. And I think that's what I want to see when we do write the code of conduct or rewrite the code of conduct, that we follow this process first, no different than any other company that's out there that follows an informal process before you go to a formal process. You try to rectify the issue. It could be just a tap on the shoulder to say, hey, this is what's going on, or this is, you know, this is the type of behavior that you need to be aware of. And, you know, it's so easy to get a code of conduct complaint. I got to remind people, you know, walking out of chambers or calling somebody a piece of dog poop, or these people, or, you know, it could be all interpreted as a code of conduct complaint. It happens. So let's resolve the issues here. You know, compelling somebody to apologize is not really a thing that I'm into, right? Let's fix the process. Let's fix the person who's doing the investigations so that they adhere to the minimum requirements in terms of the Municipal Act, and move forward that way. You know, we've all said things that we probably regret. It's just that we haven't got that complaint. And you're right, it's so easy to get a complaint. So, you know, put yourself in everybody else's shoes and understand that, you know, we're here to provide a service and support for people. We don't want to try to be disrespectful. We're trying to argue a point, you know, and we also can't be policing every word, what is considered respectful and what's considered disrespectful. So if I use asshole as a part of a body part, is that going to get me a complaint? If I'm referring to a body part, maybe not the correct, you know, the correct description of in terms of a body part that I would use, but we got to be very careful. The intention was not to hurt. The intention was to address some concerns within our community, and I think that's what Councillor Keel was trying to do, address some concerns in our community. And in some cases, I agree with some of the comments that he made, because it is. Some people behave in a manner, their behaviors are conducive to be called that name. It's unfortunate, but their behaviors are associated with that type of issues. So I think we just need to kind of move forward. I will not be supporting any reprimand. You know, even in terms of my reprimand that happened last year, I had a 15-day violation as well. If you go back and look at my complaint compared to the complaint that Councillor Keel has, what's the difference? I didn't use a profanity. All I did is pointed out that we had some transparency and accountability issues, right? That we didn't post documents in a timely manner on the website. And I was brought forward in terms of attacking staff. That was not my intent. My intent was to bring forward all these accountability and issues associated with that. And that's what Councillor Keel was trying to do. So I think we should move forward. We should be mindful that some words do hurt. It's not done intentionally, but you know, we're passionate about the jobs that we're performing, and we want to, you know, do the best that we can for our residents. And unfortunately, you know, when we have people that are policing words, it becomes the point where, like the mayor had said, why would I put myself in this position? Why would anybody put themselves in this position? It attacks your personal credibility. It attacks your professionalism. It attacks your, you know, everything that you built up your career for, and then all of a sudden, because somebody's vindictive, or, you know, and this is profanity that they hear around, you go around the outside of that building on a regular basis around the grind, that's profanity that's heard all around there. Go to the library, that's profanity that I hear worse at the library. Anyway, I think we should move forward and just say we agree to disagree and post it on the website.
Okay, I have Councillor Friendly, then Councillor Giacono.
So, as I said earlier, I'd like if this responsibility was pulled from our shoulders and given to an outside party. I mean, I had a conversation with Councillor Keel when this went online. And I wasn't happy with what he said either. But as I said earlier tonight, I always take the bull by the horn if I have a problem with something someone said. And we had a conversation, and I'm sure he recalls it. He explained what he really meant. And it wasn't in the intent that it came out. And like you say, in the heat of the moment. And I mean, in the audience that he was part of, it was the mood of the room. And unfortunately, as much as any of us want to say we don't, we have a certain amount of unconscious bias. And if someone does something heinous or disrespectful to someone's property or to someone, we tend to think that they're a-holes, regardless whether they have mental health, addiction, it doesn't matter, or whether they have nothing wrong with them. And I think that in the heat of the moment, that's what this councillor was referring to, like these people are a-holes. And in today's society, it's so sensitized, and we have to be aware. Let's face it, we've all taken training. We've taken discrimination, equity, inclusion, and diversity training, how to be sensitive to other individuals and their different backgrounds, ethnicities, social status. And I guess that's what came out of this, was that word was referring to an individual group that does have a lot of societal issues, mental health problems. But I have no doubt there was remorse at the word that was used by this councillor. I just don't know, you know, I think an apology. I mean, I almost got an apology from Councillor Keel, and it wasn't me he was talking about, maybe not that time. And this is a serious issue, though, that I think the public should hear, that he's remorseful of the word. And he was basically, whether the person had any mental health issues or any kind of issues, if they do some of these acts, that's right. You want to call them that word. You know, we are councillors, though, and we must remember, as Councillor Jackno said and the mayor, we really are not who we are out there. We have to make sure that we're representing all the individuals, even if they are individuals that are doing things in our community. So that's all I want to say. I mean, I think an apology wouldn't hurt. I mean, at the beginning of this term, I used the term "these people," and boy, I was rammed over the coals for it. I apologize, but in a way that I said that that's the way I speak, and I apologize if I offended anyone. And I think an apology like that didn't hurt me, because it was no malice intent. And that's all I want to say, is that I never have a problem apologizing if I think I've really hurt someone. Thank you.
Councillor Jagano and then Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I don't disagree with what's being said, but I think we have to have some caution, and when we proceed, we have to have a certain amount of decorum. You know, if I go to the physician and I say, "Doctor, I have a problem with my part of my physiology, which is my a-hole," but if I'm speaking to a group of people and I call them that same terminology, it takes on a whole new different meaning. And my concern is, if, you know, we don't, how would I put it? If we don't render ourselves a little, or pull ourselves back a little bit, then we can say whatever we want, anytime we want. You wouldn't say that to a child. You know, if a child had made an error, you'd try and correct them. I'm not inferring that anybody's a child. Please don't take that wrong. I'm just saying, in the context of things, you know, as we grow together, you know, where's the rule? If there's no rule for that, there's no rule for anything else. So then you have mayhem, you have anarchy. Rules are made for a reason, to be followed. And if there's a breach in the rules, it's up to the individual or the Integrity Commissioner, as he's presented to us, to make a decision. Thank you very much, Integrity Commissioner. But that is our role. We have a role, as he has a role, and each of us as a councillor has a role.
Plummer.
I just want to reiterate my position that no reprimand should be made, and also no apology is necessary. Thank you.
I'll speak. So we have ourselves a City of Pembroke Code of Conduct and Ontario Municipal Act. We're addressing Councillor Keel's language at a neighborhood meeting, and we're all required to have high standards in communication according to the Code of Conduct and the Municipal Act of Ontario. While Councillor Keel's use of the term was not the acceptable word to use, in my opinion, it was a lapse in judgment. The context in which the word was spoken does not meet the test for being abusive language. The Integrity Commissioner noted that the rest of his speech was appropriate, and attendees who I spoke to, it was a very highly emotional meeting. The attendees who I spoke to felt he spoke candidly without the intent to offend. This incident reminds us all to communicate thoughtfully and professionally. I trust Councillor Keel will exercise greater caution in the future. Let's resolve this matter tonight, refocus our shared goals, addressing drug addiction, homelessness, housing, mental health, infrastructure projects, creating a safe, welcoming community, public transit, possibly P3 sports specs, economic development. Let's move forward for the citizens of Pembroke. I also want to add that informal process, according to the procedural bylaw, needs to be tweaked. That should be the first step. There's a cost associated with these complaints. Forcing someone to make an apology isn't an apology. You know, you make an apology if you don't feel that you want to make an apology, if you're standing up for your right. But I think Councillor Keel in the future will use his words better. Thank you. So we have motion on the floor. Yes?
Recorded vote.
Yeah. Okay, what's the motion again?
The motion is that Councillor Keel issue a statement of an apology in regards to the Integrity Commissioner report findings.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Abdallah,
Nay.
Councillor Ed Giacono,
Yes.
Councillor Pat Lafreniere,
Yes.
Councillor Andrew Plummer,
Nay.
Councillor Troy Purcell,
Nay.
Mayor Ron Gervais.
Yay.
3 yeas, 3 nays. The motion is defeated.
Okay. So, what's that? Yeah, I voted. Okay, so is there any further motion? Okay, seeing none, that ends the correspondence section.
For the mayor's report this evening regarding invitations, appearances, and other matters, on October 2nd, I was invited to the weekly meeting of the Kiwanis Club of Pembroke. On behalf of the City of Pembroke, I was presented with $10,000 to be used for the renovations currently ongoing at the Kingsman Pool. The funds were generated as 50% of it as a result of the double cross swim done annually by Kiwanian Bob McLaughlin, and it was matched by the club itself. And I could not be more proud of the Kiwanis Club of Pembroke. On October 5th, I had the pleasure of attending a volunteer appreciation event at the Pembroke Public Library. As Fred Blackstein always says, volunteers are not paid not because they are worthless, but because they are priceless. An excellent opportunity to meet the various volunteers that are behind the scenes at the Pembroke Public Library and make sure that we have a stellar accredited library. Later that day, I attended the Spooky Drive-In event together with Councillor Keel. This is an ongoing collaborative event between the City of Pembroke and Township of Laurentian Valley. It's always nice to see young children enjoying themselves, giggling and so forth. We don't see nearly enough of that anymore. Thank you to both municipalities, the sponsors, and the drive-in for making this a huge success, and for Councillor Keel for dressing up, as well as two individuals that normally come in our chambers, being Des Patel and Dorian Pierce. Everyone dressed up and being quite, I don't know if festive is the word for Thanksgiving and not Christmas, or not Thanksgiving, but Halloween, but there it is. October 6th, I had the pleasure of attending the Pembroke Lumber Kings game and dropping the puck together with Sparky. It was an excellent opportunity to kick off Fire Prevention Week. There was no mishaps, and certainly was an excellent event. And as always, go Kings, go! October 11th was the Pembroke Fire Department open house. There was a great turnout when I was there. The fire department, as usual, doing an awesome job. People participating in the exchange for the smoke detectors. And as I understand it, a number of members of council attended as well. So I look forward to hearing different comments of the different times when different councillors attended our beautiful fire department. And as I kept telling an individual that I was with, this is what 5 million gets you. On October 13th was an extra special event, and I'm very pleased to have been joined by the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Keel to join in a presentation to Jolene Wong. She is the Paralympian that won bronze. It was just extra special to be there, to meet with her. Certainly, she's an inspiration to everyone. She is very personable, and it was an excellent opportunity to meet with her and her husband and children. On a different note, I want to bring forward a very quick report from the Pembroke Handy Bus for the month of September. Ridership has increased from 486 trips to 718 for an increase in trips of 232 trips for the month of September, which is largely attributed to an increase in the ambulatory individuals who have gone from 403 people to 602. Long story short, what I'm trying to get across is that the Pembroke Handy Bus is experiencing a significant increase in usage, and their Handy Bus is currently reviewing a service for Saturday to bring individuals to Mass, and so more and more the Pembroke Handy Bus is being utilized. As always, be safe and be kind to one another. Notices of motion, Councillor Keel.
Your Worship, I give notice of motion that at the next meeting of council, I will be bringing forth a motion on illegal and toxic drug enforcement measures.
Thank you. Any other notices of motion? Seeing none. Councillor updates. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Just a few items tonight here. PB, the Pembroke Business Improvement Association announcement, downtown pumpkin treats, Saturday, October 26th. 10 till noon. It's on their Facebook page. There's lots of events going on. There's actually more events going on after that. But for all the kiddies and some adults, if you want some free candy, come on out to downtown October 26th. This is a very popular event. October 25th, I'm chairing a fundraiser again for Blanche Miro and volunteers that got you in mind. It's at Fitzy Sports Bar, 7 till 1. And we want to thank all the bands that are donating their time and the sound production and Fitzy's. And this is very dear to our heart. Blanche runs a thrift store. She gives out sometimes more than she receives. She gets references from different agencies, but she does not get the funding. So we want to support Blanche. The proceeds go to her ongoing pay their monthly bills at the store. Just a reminder, Kinsman Pool, Friends of the Regional Pool, 50/50 draw is ongoing at makeasplash.ca. The city treasurer has uploaded the recent transit update. It's on the city webpage, pembroke.ca. This weekend was the final weekend of the Pembroke Farmers Market. They had a autumn harvest fest till 2 o'clock, and that soup that Christine Tomka makes at Beef Festival, that I've never had soup like that. But this was a really good year for the market, and we've seen the market expand and more vendors, and it's really appreciated by the whole community. We want to thank all the vendors and volunteers at the market. Nora Johnson is the manager. We want to thank her and everyone. And they have that nice ice cream shop. The mayor showed up, and I was talking to him, and he was enjoying a nice ice cream there, and I went and got one too. October 25th at the Farmers Market, Krista Kleisch is spearheading a fall night market. 25 vendors, food vendors, and music. Oktoberfest next weekend at Germania Club, an event that we all enjoy. And then October 26th at the Rapid Skate Park, there's a Halloween event going on at 1 p.m. and costumes are encouraged. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Jacquinot?
Your Worship, just a little update from the mural committee. The Grace Sisters mural that you see, the sky that was falling, as Chicken Little said, has been repaired. The paint had been peeling on that particular mural, so it's been repainted to its artistic interpretation of sky blue, and it looks very nice. Also, I'd like to thank Pam Dempsey and her committee for doing a cleanup at the waterfront mural. There are a lot of pine needles and things like that, and some small branches that are broken off. They did a cleanup, and thanks to the city crew for picking it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Purcell and then Councillor Keel.
Thank you. Just wanted to promote the Youth Day that's happening this weekend. It's hosted by Renfrew County, the Youth Wellness Hub, and as well as the City of Pembroke. And that's occurring on Saturday, October the 19th from 11 a.m. till 3:30 p.m. at Equinox School Gym. There's two different kind of age groups that we're looking at, engaging, and that's from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's geared to ages 8 to 12. And then from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. it's ages 13 to 18. The day will consist of games, snacks, music, pumpkin decorating, photo booth, pizza. In order to register, please reach out to the Renfrew County Youth Wellness Hubs. That could be reached at or text at 613-570-8953 or on their website as well. So it should be a fun day. It's the first annual, or hope to be the first annual Youth Day celebration. If you could have a chance to drop by, please drop by.
Thank you. Councillor Keel?
With your indulgence, if I stand, I won't be able to read this. So with respect to our Festival Hall Director, Rick Wharton, his official retirement has been announced. Obviously, it couldn't be more fitting that the retirement of our Festival Hall Director moves many with different emotions, just like a really good play plays on the emotions of the crowd. Personally, I'll miss Rick not only for his leadership at Festival Hall, but he's also been a generous supporter and friend of our broader community. I remember Festival Hall as a kid growing up at going to Laurentian Public School, which is currently where I guess the Equinox School is located. And so in many ways, I grew up on that Festival Hall stage. From spelling bees to speaking contests to graduations to winter and fall concerts. But Rick has taken the use of Festival Hall to a level that I don't know that it's ever been seen before. Certainly it was not used as much then as it is now. Just last year alone, Festival Hall hosted 59 events with an estimated total attendance of over 20,000 people. So that certainly is a legacy that Rick has created. I note that we've all heard the saying, if you build it, they will come. But I'm afraid to say that I don't accept that quote as being entirely accurate. Bricks and mortar may get you a building, but it takes the heart, determination, leadership, creativity, blood, sweat, and tears of a dedicated individual to make a building into a successful performing arts center. And that's what Rick put into it, day in and day in, night in. And of course, you're talking about one of those jobs that really is a two-parter. A lot of his contacts and his contracting and that are working during the day, but all of his shows are also working at night. So it's certainly different than many of our jobs where it's one or the other. I also want to thank his wife Lorelei and his family for sharing Rick with us for 13 years. Again, these were nights where, Rick's children are going to school and in bed, but he's up here in Pembroke, working at a show and not getting back late or until the next morning. So certainly to Lorelei and the kids, we thank you for sharing him with us. But as one curtain closes, another one opens. There is currently an RFP process out there for the consortium to hire a new director of Festival Hall. That process closes, I believe, at the end of the month. So certainly anybody with interest, we would welcome as many applicants as possible. And we're certainly hoping to have a new director in place as soon as we can after the closing of the bids. Staying on Festival Hall, this Wednesday, tomorrow, Crack Up Comedy Festival is coming to Festival Hall. So if some of us need a bit of levity after tonight, I'll be there. And then we have later this month, and I know they don't get much attention, but I can tell you their crowds are rather large. October 26th is the season opener of the Pembroke Symphony Orchestra. We have a great orchestra here in town. Again, I think they should get more attention, and I'm happy to give that to them. Other than that, Your Worship, as you noted, it was great fun to be at the Spooky Movie Night on October 5th. The number of kids there were just, especially before the movie, I know I saw the mayor out politicking with the kid. No, he was. No, I'm sure he wasn't. But no, there were lots of kids out front in front of the big screen there, where there's a play area and whatnot. And yeah, the number of kids. I mean, there were hundreds of people in attendance at this event, and certainly the Parks and Rec department and Claudia in particular. Great thanks to her. On October 10th was the Fall Fun Shop Hop. I know the deputy mayor was downtown. We ran into each other. That was great fun. We had a minor operations issue, I guess, at some point. Unfortunately, I think a water main broke, I think was what we got. So the street unfortunately had to get closed. But there were still hundreds of people downtown that night. The next day, October 11th, I had the opportunity to meet with Luyana, who is currently in charge of getting Chuck's ready to go. So I got a tour of the restaurant. So it'll be located in the West End, where the old Pizza Hut and, if you can really go back, Taco Bell was located beside Mulva Hill Drug Mart. They're looking at an opening at the end of the month, the last weekend of the month. The story behind Chuck's, I'm not going to tell it all, but we have two young gentlemen who are investing in our community. They've gone to school, they raised money, they wanted to own their own restaurant. Luyana tells me they're both under 30. And they've invested as the franchisees for this restaurant, so I look forward to meeting them. The next day, October 12th, that was a fun day. I started at the Harvest Festival with both the deputy mayor, and the mayor was coming in as I was the mayor and I think, were trading places. The mayor was coming in as I was then heading to the Fire Hall open house. Which again saw, I would say, at least a couple hundred people. I got to use a fire hose, which I now have a lot more respect for the firefighters, because I need to go to the gym if I was going to stand there for half an hour trying to put out a fire, because the pressure in that fire hose is something else. And then later that night, I went to the Garba night. So that's a religious ceremony, lots of dance and music, and it was very nice to attend such a cultural event here in the city of Pembroke. Follow that up the next day. See, I told you, Your Worship, it was a busy weekend. I was with the mayor and the deputy mayor and Jolyn Wong, the Key to the City presentation, which was a nice ceremony, fitting to have it in the middle of one of our major sports venues. And if that wasn't enough, that was it, Your Worship.
No, thank you. Any other councillor updates? Seeing none. I understand, Councillor Frenier, you have a motion to go into closed session.
Yes, moved by myself, second by Councillor Ian Keel, that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, as per Section 239-2F of the Municipal Act regarding 273 Victoria Street and closed meeting investigation. Also, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality as per Section 239-2C of the Municipal Act regarding a Transcan offer to purchase and a sale of land to the town of Petawawa through the Pembroke and Area Airport Commission.
By Councillor Lafreniere and seconded by Councillor Keel that the meeting become a closed meeting to discuss advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for the purpose as per Section 239-2F of the Municipal Act regarding 273 Victoria Street and closed meeting investigation. Secondly, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality as per Section 239-2C of the Municipal Act regarding Transcan offer to purchase and a sale of land to the town of Petawawa through the Pembroke and Area Airport Commission. Those in favor? And that is carried. We'll now move into a closed session.